Good evening, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Hustle and Heart, the podcast where we talk about business, life, and the real stories behind the hustle. I'm your host, Sean, and each episode we dive into conversations with entrepreneurs, creators, and everyday people who are building something meaningful while keeping their heart in it. Tonight's episode, I am going to be introducing Linda. We're going to go with her journey behind life discussions. So, the wins, the struggles, and the lessons along the way. So, I will bring her on now. Welcome, Linda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Okay, great. All right. So, we are going to go ahead and dive right into getting your interview started here as soon as I can get my computer to work with me here. You gotta love technology. It's an amazing thing when it works right. All right, let's see here. We are here. So tell us, can you tell us where your journey began? What shaped you in your early years?
So my journey began in Richfield, Utah, which is where I was born. And the reason why I want to start there is because there's actually a really cool story that goes with that. So about 20 years later, I was going to college at Southern Utah in Cedar City, Utah. And the administration office had called and they were asking me questions because apparently they didn't have all the basic information that they needed. So they're asking my name, my date of birth, and all that stuff. And as they were asking this information, my roommate was standing there and she was just looking at me really strange. So when I got off, I asked her what was up basically. And she goes, Were you really born in Richfield, Utah? And I'm like, yeah. And you were born on March 21st? And I'm like, yeah. And you were born in 1956? And I'm like, yeah. And so what happened is that she was born in the same hospital on the same day in the same year as I. So we were roomies in the incubator, and then 20 some odd years later, we were roomies at a college. We connected. And our lives kind of connected after that. Um, I was married to a man named Glenn Allen. She married a man named Glenn Allen. It was just really weird that for a while when we were together, our lives just seemed to be going on the same track. So that's where it started. And then basically, it took me to a small town in Wyoming. And in that small town, it was kind of hard because my religion was a little bit different. My lifestyle was a little bit different. And and I was living with a father who wasn't my blood father, and he had a difficult time accepting me. And so I'll admit there was a lot of trauma, a lot of trauma. I'm not too sure what all you want to hear.
No, and that's fine. It's all about what you're willing to share with us.
Okay,
Because
so
there's certain things that are private that, people just don't want to share, and I completely understand that. So I allow each individual to share what they would like to share, and then once they're done, we move on.
so basically, and it was explained by my adopted dad years later, but basically he was kind of jealous that I was in the picture, and sometimes he felt like my mom gave me more attention than she did him. And so he was very not only verbal, but he was extremely physical. And like one of the things is that I still have an aversion to math because when we would be sitting at the table, and that was his strong point was math. So when we'd be sitting at the table and he would be trying to explain it to me and it wasn't like kicking through, his temper would get the best of him and I would get, slapped or whatever. And so to this day, I still have a difficult even doing like simple because all that still kind of sits in the back of my head. But I have tried really hard to move forward with that. I actually hired someone a few years ago to try to learn math and found out that I could actually do it if I was in a setting that didn't seem so stressed. But so I dealt with a lot of that and just dealt with the fact that I felt like I didn't really fit in anywhere because the brothers and sisters that I grew up with were constantly reminding me that I wasn't 100% part of the family in their eyes. And my mom and my dad never really stepped in to say anything. And one of the things that still sticks in my head, but like I've overcome all that. These are all in the past. But one of the things that still sticks in my head is that one day I was sitting in the living room and there was like a kitchen counter that come across so you couldn't see me. And my mom and my adopted dad were talking to my sister who was there first together. And they were telling her how beautiful she was and how important she was to them and that how cool it was that she was like their firstborn and on and on. And I remember sitting in the chair with tears rolling down my cheeks. And because I knew they didn't know I was there. And then pretty soon my mom goes, "Well, by the way, where's Linton?" And I don't know where I got the courage, but at that point in time, that's when I stood up and I walked past them back to the bedroom. And the feeling in the room, I mean, you could have cut it with a knife. It was very tense, but nobody said anything. And it wasn't talked about later either. So these were some of the things that I dealt with when I was growing up.
So yeah, I mean, and the thing is that's so bad about things like that is it's just almost like a bully,
Mhm.
because it's just like they didn't really care because you didn't feel like part of the family. And that's the thing that I try to make sure that everyone understands. We all have a different background. We all can learn from each other and we all can share different things that no one would ever know about us until, we let people know that this has happened to us. And when it comes to stuff like that, that's just it sounds like they just literally just didn't really care, which is not good. And of course, thankfully, overcame that. But see, that's what I'm saying, friends. We all can be traumatized by different things, and we all can be affected differently by things that are said. So it's super important that we are careful with how we say things and what we say when we say them. Um, do you have anything else to add, Linda?
Yeah, I was going to say, and then like as far as my school community, I, I I came really close to dropping out, to be honest. I believe I was a sophomore, and I was in the play Oklahoma. And it was just an extra. And my mom had decided to, because back in that particular era, the girls' hair was usually in ringlets. So she took my hair and painstakingly did it all in like the bobby pin curls all over my head. And we had practice that night, and I told her I don't want to go because I know the kids will laugh and make fun of me. I've already dealt with that, and this is going to be worse. I don't want to go. And she kept talking and talking and talking, and finally, I'm okay. So I went, and I remember standing up on the stage with everybody else, and the teacher who was directing it was talking. And then all of a sudden, I could hear kids talking, and they were saying derogatory terms. And I was standing there, trying really hard to not listen to it and to keep it at bay. And they kept going and going, and then all of a sudden, I could feel the tears coming, and I ran off the stage and I went home. And I told my mom I wasn't going back to school again. She had to do a lot of talking to get me to go back to school the next day because I didn't want to go back.
See, that's the thing too. Bullying is a very bad thing, and I've noticed this even now. Some schools will say they don't tolerate it, but nothing gets done about it.
Exactly.
So that's another thing. If say for instance, your children come home and say, "Hey, I'm being bullied," you need to take that seriously because there's a lot of stuff that we see every day about kids, committing suicide and doing this and that from bullying because it's the truth. It's what's really happening. And the reason why they do that is because nothing happens. Nothing gets stopped when it comes to that, you know? And I'm shocked that, I mean, it's good that you went back. It really is good that you went back. I know that you probably didn't think at that time it was a good thing, but you wouldn't be the person you are today if you did,
That's
so
that's true.
what life experiences most influence the person you are today?
You know what? I think mostly it's been like through teaching and working with other children because I didn't want other kids to go through or feel the way I did when I was growing up. So, in fact, I did a lot of things. Like I taught junior high, which is, in my opinion, kind of a tough little group. And I always told the kids, I go, I always had test anxiety because a lot of them had a hard time. And I go, so if you want to redo a test, you can come in and we'll just talk it out. You don't have to do it on paper. Because I go, I've been down that road, I understand. So we'll just talk it out. I'll ask you questions that relate to the test, and you just talk and tell me everything you know. And that really worked because they weren't so stressed about trying to come up with the right answer. It was just like talking to a friend. And
You know what, Linda? I would have loved you as a teacher because you know what? I have the worst test anxiety. Like, I really honestly do. Like, I mean, for any test, it didn't matter what subject it was. I could study for a week. I didn't cram because I knew that I would never pass the test if I crammed. Because your brain can only absorb so much information, and hold on to so much. So, I mean, and it wasn't that I failed them completely.
mhm,
The information that I remembered was there, and I might get like a C or a D. And I mean, I'm not afraid to say that because you know what? We're all different now. We've all grown since then.
exactly.
But then of course I felt defeated and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to pass these tests and I'm just going to fail. Like that's just what's going to happen. Um, and thankfully I went to my school counselor and my school counselor was like, Sean, I think this is what you need to do. Because I'm going to talk to your teachers and see if I can give you your test. We'll put you in a room with no one in there.
Hmm.
It's just you, your paper, and when you get finished, you come and tell me. Because what they would do is they would time the test.
Oh yeah, those are the worst.
So then you're not only stressed because you already have the test anxiety, but then it's 10 times stressful than what it was because now you're timed. So you're like, oh, great. I have 100 questions to answer, but I only have 30 minutes to do it in. So I better hope that I remember all these answers. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's not going to happen too well, especially if you're that stressed.
Uh-huh.
Um, was there a defining moment that changed your direction?
Yep. So this is what occurred is that all of a sudden they decided, or the school districts or whatever decided that teachers needed to do tests and I could pass everything except for guess what? The math. And seriously, I would study and I would have all those concepts down. But when I would come in and look at the deal, it was like I'd never seen it before. And uh and that is when life kind of took a turn. And I remember feeling like really upset and frustrated because this is what I wanted to do. I was teaching like special ed and I enjoyed working with the kids, but I couldn't pass the math section, even though I could go in and teach it, which is kind of weird. But when I had that test sitting in front of me, everything went out the door. And so, so then what happened is, on a fluke, I applied for a daycare and ended up with babies in the room and had a wonderful time the last 3 or 4 years of my teaching. I didn't have
Well,
to
you
worry
know what, and that's
taking a math
great.
test.
You know, that's an amazing thing. But you know what, Linda? I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to tell everybody this. You're not the only one that's ever had that problem with me. I had the same problem. And I had a tutor that he stayed after and he let me have the chalkboard and he goes, Sean, these are the things I want you to work out for me. And wherever you get stuck, stop so we can work on it together. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So I could do each and every one of them in their entirety, and I could get the answer right. But when I took the test, I could not.
Yeah, that was me.
It was like my brain just shut down, like, nope, that ain't happening. Sorry. And that's what he didn't understand. So what they ended up doing was, like I said with my counselor, what she had me do is go into a room, no timer, no nothing, just let me have the whole class period to do the test. When I had that, it was like my brain got clear. I did the test, I could pass the test. But when I knew that all that pressure and stress was there, it was like my brain just shut down and it didn't make a difference what I knew because I knew nothing when the test was in front of me when it was timed.
Exactly. And for me, I knew that this test had to be passed in order for me to continue my career. And I
And
knew
that,
that
yeah, that is detrimental. Yes,
and
that
that
is like,
math part was like,
hmm And yeah, that definitely makes a huge, huge difference. Absolutely. What has been one of the hardest times of your life, would you say?
one of the hardest times.
Yes.
Mm, it's a good question. I think I think the hardest time is when I I finally went through my through a divorce with my husband who was extremely abusive too, because we kind of attract to that when we're growing up with it. And and through that, he basically told the kids what a bad, awful person I was. And to this day, I still don't have a really good relationship with my younger son because of it. But the other two have kind of come around and seen the whole picture, and I have a really strong relationship with the first two. But it was a fight and a battle to be able to see my children, and he would and then there was just little things that would happen, like he would call my work and berate me to the point where my boss finally came in and took the phone away and told him to never call again or she was going to report him. But it was a really hard time. It was more mental than physical at that time.
Not good at all. And see,
Mhm.
friends, the thing is, we don't know what anyone goes through until we either experience it for ourselves or they tell us about it. So, one thing I want you to take from what Linda has went through is that you don't have to accept that. You don't have to deal with that. Thankfully, her boss was like, "Look, I will turn you in if you call back." She doesn't have to deal with this. Like, she's a human being. And that's one of the most important things is we're all human beings. We don't have to put up with that craziness. Linda didn't deserve that then. She doesn't deserve it now. No one deserves to be mistreated like that. Um, how did you navigate the times emotionally and mentally?
Okay, so admit I've been through a lot of therapy. I probably could teach it. And it's been through therapy where I've been able to work things out and have my brain look at things from different perspectives. So a lot of it was through that. And then a major part was through God, to be honest. Like I was on my knees a lot praying and asking him for help, and then I couldn't go through this without him, and I needed his strength because there was a point, I will admit, that the ex was constantly calling and harassing. In fact, it was at one point he told me that my children would be better off if I weren't around. And so he had finally got me to the point where I was kind of thinking the same thing. So I remember that I wrote a letter to each of my children, and then I had all this medication plus the medication that another individual was taking in the household. And I remember lining it all up on the table, and I took each one individually. And then I went in to lay down. And I was lucky because the individual came in and he found me and he called the paramedics. But I was close to like being gone. And then it was like at that point where it's like, okay, I've got to get out of this, this, this dark place. So that's when I popped myself into therapy and started working really hard to get a better picture of who I really am and what I really wanted to be so that I could move forward. And that helped out a lot.
Understandable. And the thing is, friends, that's what it is. We can only be pushed so far and then we break, and that's where Linda was at that time. She had taken all she could take and, she was ready to just say goodbye. I'm done, I'm checking out. And, that's not a good thing. Thankfully she got help, and she was able to, survive it. But that's the thing, friends. This stuff is all real life. Things like this really happen to people. And if it's happening to you, please get help. Do not, you know, ignore it. Don't let it get to a point where there's no coming back. Um,
So I want you to know I'm not in that spot anymore because I worked really hard in trying to make huge changes in my mental outlook and how I looked at things, and to surround myself with people who are positive and not negative, which helped out a lot too.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can imagine that definitely made a huge difference for you. Absolutely. What did you discover your purpose, or are you still discovering your purpose?
I think our purpose is sort of an ongoing thing. It depends on where we're at in our stage of life. And so when I hit the spot with the little babies, I feel like my purpose was to help them to have a really good, strong beginning, uh, and to give them all the things that they needed so that those milestones could be hit and then they could progress to be the best little people they possibly could be. And and now where I'm at is that well, during the COVID I wrote a book, which was something I always wanted to do when I was a little kid, and always wanted to be an author. And so during COVID I did write a book, and it was published. And then lately here I've been thinking about doing it again because I know how I could fix it to make it better. And so I sent it into this one local company where they only accept like 26 manuscripts a year. And they have been talking back with me and they sound really interested, and they gave me ideas on how to fix it. And they told me just to take my time to fix it and just send them the pieces when I could. So there's not really a deadline. So yay, there's no pressure there. And so I'm working on that. So that's my next phase, is being an author.
That's amazing. That's really great. And I love reading books. And once you get published, or even before then, if you want me to read, I would love to read your book.
Okay.
Um, I'm one of those people that I want to support anyone that I know would appreciate it. And I have a friend that actually became an author, and he wrote three books. They were short story books. They're all mysteries. And they're very good. But the biggest thing was is he went through the same thing you went through where it came to he submitted them to, a publisher that would accept so many and wouldn't charge you to publish it and everything. And he ended
Mm-hmm.
up having to pay for publishing for all three of his books, but they all ended up really high up on the list. Of course, they weren't top number ones. I think they should have been, but that's my opinion. That's my opinion, of course, but uh, they're very good books, and I'm super proud of him because, he didn't wait around for that. I mean, it's great that you didn't get a deadline or anything like that. They were still willing to, you know, go forward with you. They just wanted you to fix certain things and, make it better this way or that way. So that's really great. So let me know when that's published, Miss Linda.
So it is okay if tell you a little bit about it?
Oh, absolutely. Please.
Okay. So it's called A Star for a King. And what I did is I told it from the stars the star's point of view. And it sort of has a little bit of a mythological ring to it. So it's different. And I'm just gonna leave you hanging there.
Okay, well then I want to read that book, Miss Linda.
Okay.
But you know what, friends? That's what it's all about. We all are here for a reason. We all have dreams. We all have things that we would like to do to be successful in life. And, not every single person is meant to be an author. I love to write. I know that I'm not meant to be an author. But see, that's my opinion on myself. Sometimes we are our own worst critic. I could probably write a book, send it to Miss Linda, and she might think that that's the most amazing book she's ever read, and I tell her that it's terrible. That's the difference. You know what I mean? That's really what it is. It's perspective, versus, I mean, because everyone has a different perspective when you read something. If Miss Linda read one book and she told me, "Oh, Sean, this is a great book. You should go get it." And I go and get it and I read it and I say, "Oh, Linda, I didn't really like it. I didn't like this, I didn't like that." But see, we all like different things. So the perspective that she got from it was a great book. Excuse me, I got a perspective that I didn't really like everything about it. There were certain parts that were great, and there were certain parts that were not so great. So, um, but that's the difference, friends. We all have different parts of our life that, as we go along, we want this, we want that. Sometimes what we want changes by year, by day sometimes. It just depends on what direction we're going. Um, Let me ask you this. What lights you up right now in this time of your life?
My grandkids. My
That is
grandchildren do.
great. That is great. Now, how
And
many grandkids do you have?
well, with between myself and my husband, we have 11 grandchildren and two greats. And
Oh,
they range
wow.
and they range from ages 30 to 2.
Oh, wow. Look at that. That's a huge age range. Wow. Well, Linda, they keep you busy, right?
Yes, sir.
How do you balance hustle with heart?
How do I best balance hustle with heart?
Yes.
What I've learned is I need to like take time for me. I used to think that I wasn't supposed to do that, that I needed to take care of, constantly be taking care of, like family or other people in the community. And I'm like third or fourth or fifth down the line. But I've come to realize that if I don't take care of myself, there's no way that I can help all these other people or be there to assist. So I've learned to be able to take a few minutes out of the day to take time for me, whether it's like walking or taking a bubble bath or running to the store, whatever it happens to be at the time. I need to walk away, take time for me, and then I can come back and be a better person.
That is great. And you know what? The thing is that's a super important thing that Delinda just said, is we all need to learn, including myself, because I do this too. I think about everybody else before I think of myself. And self-care is super important because when we go, and it's always about someone else and not about us, in the end, we're like, wait a minute, what about me? What have I done for myself? I
Right.
have this to-do list that I've never gotten to. Guess why? Because I'm more worried about everything else that I'm not supposed to be worried about. So the key is, friends, is that no one's going to take care of you better than you. You know what you need, what you want, what needs to be done, and you're the one that's going to, in the end, take care of you better than anyone else can. So if you don't take anything else from this, take that. Know that you are important. You have to think about yourself more than you think of others. I'm not saying not to help anybody. What I'm saying is think of you number one and everybody else after. Uh, how has your mindset evolved over the years?
I think I found joy. I used to always, I'll be honest with you, I used to always be in a dark place and I didn't really like to be around or associate with other people. And but I think what it is that I finally found that piece of joy and realized that life is worth living and just finding those little things that make it like that, whether it's the sun shining or the rain or a simple act of kindness when I've been in a store or whatever, or on a trip or whatever. So it's,
Okay,
pulling out the darkness. Because when I was a kid, I spent probably 95% of my time in my room, and people would try to come and get me out, and I wouldn't go anywhere. So I isolated a lot. I don't do that anymore.
that's great. So, and that's one thing, friends, too, is that at different parts of our life, we all have different things that we've went through. And mindset is everything. Like Linda said, she did not, want to associate with anybody. Now, how long was that for, Linda? Was that a long time?
It wasn't until I I had a therapist tell me to write a letter to my dad. She goes, I know you can't tell him how I feel, but you can write a letter to my dad about how I felt and what it looked like on my end, and then afterwards tear it up. And that actually opened up a whole window because after it got torn up, it didn't stick with me. Like right now I can talk about it and there's not tears rolling down my face and I'm not feeling mad or angry because it's all done and it's in the past and I don't look back there anymore. I look forward. And before, I used to constantly look back and drag up all this stuff. And so I was constantly living in that swirl. But that's all in the past now, like I said, and I don't look back. I look forward.
That's a great thing. And friends, that's a very important part too. If you know that, you're going through something that you definitely need help with, please get help. Don't dwell and continue to think of things that happened to you in the past. And not that they're not important, because of course you're thinking about them because they affected your life in some kind of way and not a good way. So the key point is make sure that you are doing everything you can to help your own well-being, your own mentality, mental and emotional stability. And I am going to ask Linda the next question I have for her. What limiting beliefs did you have to overcome?
Oh, that I was a good person because I was always constantly told that I wasn't smart, that I would never succeed, um, that I was like a bad person. I mean, these things were constantly drilled into my head. So overcoming my self-image as to as to who I as to who I am, and I did that in part through journaling and uh, and writing down things that I was grateful for or something good that happened during that day, so that sometimes if my brain started to flip back that way, I could go back and read, and I could read all the good things. So it's almost like keeping like they call a blessing jar, or a jar where you pop in things that were good that happened to you that day, except I was writing them down in a journal, and then I could go back and look at them.
Okay, absolutely. And you know what, friends, we all have different ways of overcoming things. And Linda did it through journaling, and that's great because that's what worked for her. Like she mentioned, a blessing jar or something around that nature that could definitely help someone as well. So those are both important points there. Who or what has influenced your personal growth the most, do you feel?
Okay, so this might sound a little crazy, but I honestly feel like God has. Because when I look at myself as being a child of God, then I realize, oh my gosh, I have all this cool potential. I'm not this really bad, horrid person. And I feel like if 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 God can forgive me of some of the things that maybe I've done wrong, then I should be able to forgive myself as well. And so it's basically leaning on Him a lot. And then the other thing is just like different people who have come into my life and offered different perspectives to help me to see things in a better way.
Absolutely.
So
And
I've had a lot of people do that with me. So I've had a lot of great teachers.
that's great. And you know what, your friends, and we all believe the way we believe, and that's completely okay. This is what helped Linda, and that is a great thing that it did because she's been through a lot of things in her life. And friends, she's not saying this to be saying this because of because of the podcast. This is what she really went through in life. Like this is really real life what she went through. So I don't want anyone to think that this is scripted because this is not scripted in any way, shape, or form. What daily habits keep you grounded?
So I when I get up in the morning, I say a prayer and I read my scriptures. In the evening, I write in my journal. So those are some of the like the daily habits that keep me grounded. I'm constantly looking for ways in which I can help or serve others. For instance, one of the most fun things that I like doing is that when my husband and I are in the grocery store, and if the person ahead of me has like two or three items, I'll tell the cashier put it on mine because I like watching people's faces when they go, "Whoa, are you being serious?" Yeah. So I just like adding, I guess I enjoy adding little surprises to other people's lives to help them to see that today you're seen, and and today I want to be able to give you a gift, even though it may be really small, to show that I've noticed you.
That's great. And the thing is I'll give an example other than what Linda gave, but that's a great thing right there that she does. I have been to grocery stores, and people, or anyone for that matter. At the time, it was a lady that reminded me of my grandma, and she had to choose between her medication or if she was going to eat.
Mhm,
And it just touched me so much because when she put all her things on the belt, um, it was like $90, and she couldn't afford $90. She only had $10.
mhm,
And she didn't realize that I think she might have had something wrong, and that's okay. We won't get into why she did it, because I don't even know why she did it. But the thing is of it all is that I had just got my taxes back at that time, and I had the extra money, or maybe I didn't. But guess what? I still blessed her. I paid for her groceries. I helped her get them into her car. And she looked at me and she goes, I can't believe that you just did that. And she cried. I mean, she did. She cried like a baby because it was almost like no one had ever done anything like that for her. And she told me, she goes, well, because of you, I won't be eating cereal all month.
oh, how cool is that?
Yeah, so it touched me so much. And I seen her the following month, and her son was with her, and her son bought her groceries, because he knew that his mom couldn't afford them. And she seen me because I got in the same line as she.
Hmm.
And her son was like, well, you know what? You only have three items. Let me buy your items. I'm like, no, that's not necessary. I have the money to pay for them. And she goes, that's the young man that blessed me. You take his stuff and you buy him. And I told her, I said, that is not necessary. I didn't I did not buy those groceries for you to get anything in return but a blessing. And I said, I've already got that blessing. So I'm not worried. And he looked at me, he goes, you are one of the nicest brought up young men I've ever seen. I said, and you know what? That's good because that shows that my mom brought me up the right way.
Exactly.
If you can help an individual and not expect anything in return, and like I said, even then, at that moment, I didn't know what blessings were coming my way or if I would get one for doing that. That wasn't the reason why I did it. I did it because I felt good about doing it. And I knew that she wasn't going to be able to eat all month if all she was going to be able to buy was a box of cereal and a gallon of milk.
My goodness.
So
Well, you
that's
remember?
one thing, that I did that, and I've done that more than once. Maybe not as for much money, but I try to help people if I can. And it's super important. And we don't have enough people in this world that, are willing to help, even if it's a loaf of bread. If that's what that person's got on the belt and they thought that they had enough money and they don't have enough money, if you have the extra money, I'm not saying that you have to, but if you do and you can, bless somebody, help them, because eventually in the long run, somehow, some way, someone will pay it forward to you or
Well, I
you'll
think,
get the blessings from it. Sorry, go ahead, Linda.
see, I think that's why we were placed here, is we should all be helping each other. And I've always have felt that if we actually did it the right way and helped one another, especially when we have excess, there wouldn't be hunger or people being homeless or whatever. But I think sometimes we get, I don't know, as human beings, sometimes we get selfish. It's like, oh, I'm not going to share this. This is mine. But I feel like as a whole, if we helped each other out, because I feel like there's plenty here upon this earth for everyone, and if we all stepped up and helped each other out, we probably wouldn't have any hunger or any homeless. I mean, they may not be living rich lives, but there wouldn't be any hunger and there wouldn't be any homeless if we all stepped up and helped each other out instead of being, like selfish sometimes, like as human beings can be.
I completely agree with you on that one. Yep, I can't say that I don't agree with that. Let's see. What season are you currently in? Building, healing, expanding, or reinventing?
That's a good one. Because when I ended up retiring, that was really difficult for me because I was used to working and I like to work. And and I know for a lot of people they find that really weird. So I know my husband's relatives are like, you don't want to do what? Because they're constantly asking me when he's going to retire. And it's like, I don't know. Maybe next year, and the next year would come and I'd still be working. So it was, I'll be honest with you, it was really hard for me when I quit. I didn't have like a routine and I didn't feel like I had a purpose or a goal or anything. And then I was introduced to, I guess you call it, what is it, the ML? I don't know what the term is, but anyhow, I was introduced to these little small businesses that you could do online. And I thought, oh, this might be kind of fun. And then when I hooked up with the company called Paper Pie, that was like right up my alley because it brought those children back to me again. Because that was the part I missed the most was being around the kids. And so it brought that back to me again because a lot of the parents will send me pictures of their kids reading books or showing me what goals and things that their children have attained. And I get just as excited as they do because I feel like I'm in a small way, I'm a little bit a part of that. And so that's where my continuation goes.
Okay,
Paper Pie.
great.
And for people who don't know, Paper Pie is children's books and educational materials. So still helping children learn, but in a different way.
And see, there's nothing wrong with that, friends. And you know what? They actually do have even teens books. And those teen books, I've read some of those books, and they're just like an adult book to an extent, depending on what you're looking at. Because I'm not gonna lie, I love Goosebump books. And
Those are
I,
good.
and I'll tell you this, friends, I will be 39 years old in May, and I still read Goosebump books. Okay. So, and I still read, Curious George and James and the Giant Peach and Charlotte's Web and all those things. And yes, they are little kids' books, but you know what? They're classics. They're things that I grew up reading, and my mom read to me, and my grandma read to me. And they still excite me when I read them to my nieces, my nephews, because it brings me back to that time like, oh my goodness, I miss that, I do. I miss those years, where I didn't have to be an adult.
So, so anyhow, that's where I'm at in my life
Okay.
right now is and that does bring me a lot of joy. So I feel like I'm still teaching, but like you said, it's in a different way. It's with a different format.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I will tell you guys, if you have not seen Linda in action online, trust me, she's amazing when it comes to asking questions, and she will tell you everything you need to know and then some. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing because she's really good with the parents, and she loves to get books into children's hands. And let me tell you, children need books. They don't need these video games and all this other stuff. They need education. They really do. In the long run, they need education because the education is going to help them. The video games are not. I mean, that's just my opinion, though.
Well, during the holidays, I actually took a link out in my name and earned a bunch of books. And then I took and donated them to the Ronald McDonald House here in Salt Lake City.
Oh, that's amazing.
And apparently I think apparently they had enough because they send them on down to, which I didn't realize they had one there, but they sent them on down to another city called Lehigh. And I got a letter back when they were saying, "Oh, this is something we really needed and we really appreciated it." It was kind of cool. So,
That's awesome.
because I got thinking when we got whole families in there and they might not have a whole lot to do. So, like I threw in books and some of the games and toys and activities and things. So there'd be things for them to do while they were there at the house. So
That's
that was
amazing. That's
so
great, Linda. And see, the thing is, friends, is we can help in ways that we don't even think about. Because even if Linda was not a representative for Paper Pie, she could have contacted any Paper Pie representative and said, "Hey, I want to do a fundraiser for this." And they would have been like, "Yeah, let's do it." And the same thing would have came of it. But the thing is she took time out to say, you know what? I want to help them. I know they need this. And we all can help someone, friends. We don't have to do fundraisers. We don't have to do any of those things. We can honestly open the door and hold that door open for somebody, and they're going to smile and say thank you. And that might be the best thing in the whole entire day that they had happen to them. We don't know because we don't know what someone's going through.
and then I have this really cute little story. So my
Okay.
my daughter-in-law has a little nephew, and he's about, I think he turned 3. So I went over with him on his birthday and I brought him a couple books. And he refused to share them with his sister. He wanted to take those books to bed with him. I mean, you would think that I'd given him gold. He's so excited. And he would not share.
Oh my.
His sister's like, but I want to look at them. Nope, they're mine, mine, mine.
The kids will do the darndest things, won't they?
And he had to take a nap. He took him up to his bedroom and put him in his bed with him because he was afraid his sister would sneak in and take him.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What impact do you hope to leave on others?
I think basically that there's light after the dark. So in other words, we all go through hard times, but there's always going to be light. There's always going to be joy after you get through whatever it is that you need to get through. And sometimes even in the mix, there is a little bit of light showing in there. So you always have a choice. You can either head towards light, which I view as being, like the good in the world, or you can head towards the dark. And I choose the light. I choose to have joy.
Absolutely.
And I choose to have
Absolutely.
happiness in my life.
And friends, that's one thing that we have to realize too. The reality of things is we make the final decision with our life, what we want. Do we want joy? Do we want happiness? Do we want darkness? What do we want for us? And what you want for you, if you can't get it for yourself, then you get help to where you can, do it for yourself because that's super important. Um, Most definitely. If someone listening feels stuck right now, what would you say to them?
talk to someone. Find, like a best friend. And if you can't do that, there is the helpline that you can call. Um, but definitely talk to someone. That was probably the major mistake that I made is I didn't talk to anyone. I just kept it inside till it built and it built and it built, and then it just kind of blew like a volcano.
Yeah, that's definitely not good, and that's definitely good advice.
But somebody
Um,
that you can talk to that you can trust that's not going to be judgmental, not going to sit there and give you what they think you ought to do. You just need someone who can just listen to you as you pull it out. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's super important, friends. We don't need someone that's going to sugarcoat things or tell you what you want to hear. They need to tell you what you need to do to get help, or if they can help you, accept the help. That is beyond important. What does living with both hustle and heart truly mean to you?
it means that to me, I feel like it means I've got balance and that I'm not doing too much in one area and not enough in another, but that I've got balance in my life. But I feel like we also have to remember that sometimes that that balance may look a little off because there might be some things in your life that you need to pay more attention to than other things, and that's okay. So we have to realize that that's okay, that this over here can be let go for a little bit while we kind of deal with this over here. So it's basically like learning how to balance and maybe prioritize what's what's important in the moment and what we need to take care of and deal with in the moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I completely agree. Balance is everything, friends. It's okay to have a job and or a career and be passionate about it, but you also have to be able to separate it between your career or your job and your life at home. That is definitely something that needs to be balanced, and I know a lot of people, including myself. I did have this issue before myself, and I'll be the first to admit it. I did not do well with balancing them, and thankfully, I've learned to balance them a lot better. And that is beyond super helpful. So, if you need some tips, of course, I cannot give you, you know, advice, meaning I'm a licensed therapist, because I'm not yet. But I can definitely give you advice that you won't have to pay for. If your life were a chapter in a book, what would this chapter be called?
Oh my goodness. I don't know, maybe the crazy and fun life of Miss Linda. Mm, So I think I think every chapter in our life has some kind of meaning because there's growth with it. And right now, I'll be honest with you, I've been trying to figure that out because I'm older and so it's like so what do I want to see? So I guess it's just trying to maybe share a bit of what little wisdom I have with others and showing people that life is really worth living and that there's a lot of wonderful experiences that you can have in life and not to like hide out so that you lose out on all that. Because in my opinion, we should always be constantly learning and growing and progressing. And I think that when we stop, then we get stagnated and we don't evolve.
Absolutely. Okay. And last but not least, how can listeners connect with you?
I'm not too sure. Dang. That was one question I wasn't sure how to answer.
So, would you like to provide them, say, your Facebook page? Is your Facebook page public if they'd like to reach out to you?
Oh, I see. I thought you meant on a personal level. I'm like, I don't know. So my Facebook page is Explore the Magic, and it is, and you can. My regular thing is what do you call it? You can.
Your
You know
main
what?
profile.
Yeah, my main profile is uh, Linda Fitzgerald, so you could PM me.
Okay. All right, friends. Well, I want to thank you, Linda, for being my special guest tonight. And we are going to I'll go ahead and wrap up the show. And I want to thank you so much again for being here with us and um, letting us dive into your journey.
Hey, I appreciate being here. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, friends. So I am going to go ahead and we will close out this show by letting you know a few things. So next week we will be interviewing a business owner and also um, I wanted to thank Linda once again for joining us tonight on Hustle and Heart. And thank you to everyone for listening and supporting the show. If you've enjoyed tonight's episode, make sure to follow the podcast and share it with someone who loves hearing real stories about business and life. Until next time, keep hustling and keep leading with heart. And you will hear from us next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And always remember, you can't hustle without heart. Take care, everyone, and have a great week.